Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Conejo Open Space Foundation Speaker Series. We are excited for all of our attendees who are here today and very excited to hear from our panelists who are here with us. For all of you, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Tanya Garcia. I am the current president of the Conejo Open Space Foundation. Very excited to be in this role, newly in this role for one whole month. So very excited to see what this year brings for the organization. Tonight, of course, I welcome you all to Talkin' Trash. Why is my garbage so complicated? I understand that title completely, so I'm excited that we're doing this topic tonight. I'm thrilled that you could all join us. Before we get started, I want to share a little bit about the Conejo Open Space Foundation. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the organization, but for those who might be newbies to our activities, I would like to share a little bit about who we are and why we do these speaker series. So first of all, we're an all-volunteer nonprofit. We started as an opportunity to educate our public on promoting, protecting, and preserving our open spaces. We also do a lot to raise funds to help support other organizations in our community who do great work in this space. Part of our education comes from various activities with youth, with adults, with everyone in our community. We want to leave no one out. And one of the activities that we do is obviously the speaker series, which for us are an opportunity to educate the public, hopefully on some hot topics at the moment, and hopefully today will prove that. One of the other things that we do is we speak about our fundraising activities. We do a wonderful student scholarship program. I'm going to mention that tonight because we're just about to select our student awardees this year. So the Conejo Open Space Foundation identifies a couple of students in our community who have some aspirations in the environmental studies areas and who we hope can bring back that education and knowledge into our community in the future. These are $1,000 scholarships that we hope we can award for all 4 years for the student. So that totals $4,000 when all is said and done. So a really exciting opportunity for us to give back to the Conejo Valley. So a little bit about us and what we do. But as a foundation's president this year, I'd really like to take this opportunity in particular to thank all of you. Many of our attendees have also been donors to the organization. So thank you for contributing both your time and your financial support to the organization. We can't do it without your help. So we really appreciate it. Please continue to keep the Conejo Open Space Foundation in your philanthropic plans. If you have ideas, thoughts, concerns, whatever it is, we always like to hear from you. So please make sure that you stay in touch with us. But let's get to our program at hand. And first and foremost, let's talk about some quick housekeeping items. I want to note that all of our attendees are muted for the duration of the presentation. Also, the presentation will be roughly 45 minutes, so keep that in mind, and we will have an opportunity for questions and answers at the end, but you can put your questions in the Q&A at any point in the conversation, so feel free to start them now. I think we already have a couple in the queue, so that's great. We welcome your questions submitted at any time. The chat function is disabled, so please communicate through the Q&A. My fellow board member who's with us here tonight, Steve Johnson, will be our Q&A moderator, and so he will help share your questions with the panelists. We will also be recording the event so that you can either rewatch later or for folks who have been unable to make it tonight, they will have the opportunity to go to our website and watch at their convenience. Give us about a week to get that up on our website, please. But as part of our panel tonight, I'm very excited. We have with us Joanie Burns, who is the Amgen Sustainability Manager, and she will be acting as our moderator tonight. Now, Joanie, I've just recently had the pleasure to get to know, and she is delightful and has an amazing history in this area. Joanie is an environment, health, safety, and sustainability manager at Amgen. in Thousand Oaks. She has 27 years of environmental policy and planning experience. That's no small feat. Working with a wide range of public and private sector organizations in the United States and internationally. Joanie is responsible for waste and materials management at Amgen's headquarters, including identifying and implementing projects to achieve Amgen's commitment to reduce waste disposed by 75% by 2027. So very cool stuff, Joanie. We're so excited that you've joined us tonight, and thank you for doing this. But I will hand it over to you and let you introduce our panelists for tonight.
Okay, that's great. Do you want me to introduce the panelists first or give the brief intro to sustainability at Amgen? Do you have a preference?
Whatever feels right for you.
Okay, well, why don't I go ahead and I was asked before, I do want to give as much time to our panelists, but I was asked to give just a brief overview of sustainability at Amgen, because a lot of people wonder what happens behind all those trees and buildings. So there's a lot of information here. Can you see my screen? Okay, there's a lot of information here. This is just scratching the surface. It's it's mostly waste centric because, as Tanya mentioned, that's my key role. But I'm just going to fly through this stuff. And if there's specific questions, as she mentioned, you can put it in the chat. But I do want to leave as much room as possible to our esteemed panelists. So Amgen has been setting sustainability targets for a long time now. We're effectively in our third set, if you will, of sustainability goals. The last ones came to maturity in 2020. And as you can see in that middle graphic, we met or exceeded those commitments in 2020. And at the same time, we launched our 2027 sustainability plan, and it is very, very ambitious. I'm both proud and very anxious about this because it presents huge challenges for people like me. But as you can see, we are going to be 100% carbon neutral for Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions by 2027. A lot of times you'll hear companies or governments talking about 2030 or 2050. So that really is very aggressive. Reducing our water by 40%. And as Tanya mentioned, a reduction of 75% in waste disposed. And how we're going to do that, if you see on the right side of that graphic, is really integrating it into the business. This is the big change for this plan. This is up and down our value chain. We're involving our suppliers, we're involving our service providers like Athens, and we're all of our vice presidents have this on their radar, in their goals, and they're all participating to make it happen. So it really is an all hands on deck approach. ATO is what we call Amgen Thousand Oaks. I'm going to give you again some very quick examples. We've always had very good recycling programs, and from a very early time, relatively speaking, organics recycling. We started composting our kitchen food scraps in one of our kitchens back in 2009. And the point of showing this composting timeline is a lot of these big programs, they sound simple, but they take a huge amount of effort. They take a huge amount of practical considerations. And so step by step, we've done it. And over the course of time, 2019 was a major step when we switched to compostable single-use disposable items. So those compostable takeout containers, those fiber bowls. And that really helped us up the game because a lot of the food gets lost in those compostable bowls. And then in 2022 was my last effort to kind of fill in some gaps where we didn't have compost collection on site. Now, wherever you go that there's a kitchenette or a dining area or an outdoor container, you're able to compost. I like to say never waste a crisis. We recycle a couple of things that are not, to be clear, recyclable in your regular recycling bin. And this speaks to some of the things Matt and Philip will talk to, is certain things are recyclable, but they're not easily recyclable, or it's not practically recyclable in a municipal stream. But when COVID came along, I've been wanting to work with TerraCycle. This is the organization that makes the cute little accessory bags out of Capri Sun pouches. They do amazing things with toothpaste tubes and everything. And this was my opportunity to go to my leadership and say, we're going to be generating these masks. They can take care of them. They can recycle them. And we have a park bench on our site that is made out of recycled materials, recycled plastics that TerraCycle made. So that's the kind of thing that goes into industrial lumber. And so this was my opportunity. The first year of COVID, we recycled over a ton of masks. I grew that program. That was, like I say, my foot in the door. We're now doing gloves. So this isn't gloves that have touched biological material or chemical material. Those have specific specific regulated waste streams, but we have a glove recycling program. And so again, very unique, very challenging, takes a huge commitment. I'm very, very happy and proud to be working for a company who's willing to make that commitment. But something I wanted to point out is, recycling is great when you have no other options. But if you look at if you think back in the old day, we heard about the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. So that reduction, that refusing the waste in the first place is a really big element of what I'm trying to do and what we at Amgen are trying to do. And a good example of that is last year, I eliminated paper cups on our campus. We virtually eliminated all paper cups. There are some, but we went from about 1.87 million paper cups a year to maybe a couple thousand. And how we did that is gave everyone a really nice Amgen branded cup, did a lot of outreach, did a lot of, this accord was kind of a way to show people this is a commitment to reuse. And then we partnered with an organization called Fill It Forward. I would really encourage you to Google Fill It Forward. The principle behind this is everyone also got a little QR code that they put on their reusable cup. They scan it every time they fill up, and it tracks their impact. It shows them the waste and the carbon and the water they're saving by not using a disposable cup. And also every time you scan, 2 cents goes to a project. In this example, it was a drinking water training program. The current project is bringing clean drinking to a vulnerable community in a third world country. 2 cents doesn't sound like a lot, but when you talk about 1.87 million cups, that's a lot of scans. So I was really, again, very, very happy and proud that Amgen was willing to partner and do this. And also it was a great way to get everyone at Amgen really engaged and involved. Similarly, I just finished a pilot reusable takeout containers where instead of getting one of those compostable clamshells, because no matter what you tell people, they sometimes end up in the wrong place, we tried just, let's eliminate them and go with reuse. We ran into some glitches with getting them back, but the company is committed. We're going to give it another try. We're back to the drawing board and we're going to give it another swing. And so these are the kind of programs, like I say, recycling is great, but to the extent that you can just avoid the waste altogether is really key to a successful program. And then very quickly, I'll just mention, we're also doing Green Lab certification. This is a global program. My Green Lab's another thing I would love, I highly recommend, especially if you're in the education field, to Google My Green Labs. And we have 20 labs that have been certified last year, 13 more going for certification this year. And this is comprehensive. It's not just waste, but it really engages everyone in the lab to look at their practices around energy and waste and water and green chemistry and to green up. And it requires a ton of staff engagement. And that's how we're changing the culture at Amgen. So very neat. And then finally, My Green Labs works with the International Institute of Sustainable Laboratories on what's called the International Freezer Challenge. This is something I have coordinated for the last 3 years, and it's a way to improve cold storage and save energy. And I'm proud to say that last year, Amgen won for the top biotech pharma category after AstraZeneca had carried that title for 2 years. We beat them out. So there's a little schadenfreude for you. But I was very, very proud that we were able to achieve that. And again, that just speaks to how we are so committed to really increasing the employee engagement and getting everyone on board to our sustainability plan. So with that, I believe I've stopped sharing my screen, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. So I'm going to pass it off to Philip Hirrel. And he's going to be telling us about waste legislation, both at the state level and even down to local ordinances. And that will probably explain some of the things that you're seeing on the ground here in Thousand Oaks. Talk about some challenges and opportunities, and then some of the great programs the city offers. Philip completed his undergraduate degree in economics at San Diego State University, and then he received a master's degree in urban studies and planning at Cal State University Northridge. Philip started with the city in 2021, and in his current role, he primarily conducts public outreach to promote organics recycling, the polystyrene ban, which you're going to hear about, and to assist in local food recovery programs to help address food insecurity. And in his spare time, he likes hiking local trails, which I'm sure we all love, and surfing, sailing, and cooking. So with no further ado, Philip, I'll hand it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. How does that look? Talking trash and how to do your garbage right. We're all good there. Awesome. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. All the stuff that's going on at Amgen is so cool. So many different levels. So thank you for that. Let's see here. All right. So just a brief little agenda we're going to look over. We'll take a little view of the staff that I am lucky to work with. We'll talk about SB 1383, which we're all getting very familiar with now. It's kind of a newer thing that's a good friend to us now. And our new solid waste collection service with our new friends at Athens Services. We'll talk about polystyrene and some kind of newer ordinances that come into play in the last few months, and they're going to be around for a while. So these are my good friends that I get to see every day. We all have a lot of different challenges that we face in our day, but it's pretty awesome. Not on this is also an amazing hourly aide that we have right now. She's doing her master's at USC, but she is a very great asset for us. So jumping right into it, SB 1383. A very intricate ordinance that went into play. So this is kind of a layered approach for organics collection. Previously, we treated those green bins that we have for our yard waste, and pretty much that was it. Now we're able to add our food waste in there to kind of close that loop and close that cycle for organic waste and be able to turn that into a resource that we can use down the road. The same time, kind of one of my pet projects that I'm so blessed to be able to work with everybody is the food recovery aspect. So I get to work with a lot of the food pantries that we have here in the city and kind of expand food recovery and for families that have like some food insecurity. We're also going to run into some intricacies moving forward in 2024 where we have restaurants becoming involved with food recovery. So it's gonna be a little bit of a daunting challenge for restaurants. I have a pretty good restaurant background, but I think with the network that we have currently, it's a good opportunity, and I think we're ready to face that challenge. So along with SB 1383 was kind of the color coding of a lot of our bins and trash carts that we see in front of our house or our homes. The cool thing with this is it makes it simple. It was a little confusing for a long time. It's like, what do I put where? When do I put it? The city of Thousand Oaks, I think in Ventura County, we're the only city and jurisdiction to be 100% compliant with SB 1383. So our transition from our old partners to our new partners couldn't have been done at a better time. So now it's like blue's for recycling, black will be for trash, and green will be for your organic waste. So kind of simple. It's kind of like being a kid again. You just got to relearn it. And it's all the stuff we learned before, but now we actually have it and it's all practical. So kind of moving forward with this, Athens Services is I would say new. It's relatively new. It was a daunting challenge to kind of convert everything over. Just to give you a little bit of perspective, we had about 35,000 residential units here in the city of Thousand Oaks that got switched over to a new provider. Times that by 3, right? So they were able to go in, swap out everybody's carts, and that's just for residential. We still have mixed use. We still have commercial properties, so the large bins and containers like that. So it was a daunting challenge. We got through, we persevered through it, and we appreciate everything from the community and our partners to make sure that was done correctly and efficiently. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but we got through it like we always do. We have a bundled commercial service to kind of keep it easy for businesses. So you're not having to like piecemeal your rates or piecemeal your service levels. Athens came in, fixed it, was like, this is what you need. And the best part about this too is the outreach that was available to kind of explain why you put stuff where was super important for us as a commercial standpoint. Organics, Joanie kind of touched on this a little bit too, because Amgen's doing a great job. So the food and compostables, food, soil, paper, organic waste, all those can now go in your green bin. And then kind of touching on some other items, polystyrene, and kind of what to recycle and what it is. Just because the Mobius says that it is recyclable doesn't mean it's always recycled. So we run into a few items that there's a market for them, and that's a big aspect to keep in mind. So number 1, number 2, and number 5, there's a pretty good market for those. So we're be able to recycle those pretty easily. Number 6 is what we're going to talk about in just a few moments, is styrofoam. Keep in mind, styrofoam doesn't always necessarily mean that white puppy stuff. Styrofoam can also be hard plastics, but I won't say they can't be recycled, but it's very difficult to recycle them. So there's plenty of other options out there. So we definitely want to make sure that people are mindful of what they can use. And, we use our purchase power to kind of avoid buying certain items. So the ordinance, January 1st of 2022, was the ban on polystyrene. So this kind of focused more on restaurants and convenience stations, donut shops, stuff like that. So we understood it going through the pandemic. There were supply chain issues, made it very difficult. But at this time, supply chain issues are pretty much kind of back to normal to a point. So whenever you see these kind of items here, or singles that are 6, you can help us out by reporting it. And this is where we really need your outreach and your support on this. It's almost impossible for city staff to go to every restaurant and facility and see exactly what they're serving. So the mobile citizen app is great because there's a lot of things you can report. It could be anything from graffiti on a wall by your house, or, in the last couple of weeks with all the rain and stuff like that, if a tree branch fell down, you can report that to the city. We also need you, and I would love it personally, if you guys go to a restaurant that you love, let us know if they're serving polystyrene. We can go out there. I'll talk to them. We'll try to correct it as soon as we can. But that's we need folks available to do this kind of stuff. And then kind of what's coming up new. So with our partners with Athens Services, this is kind of a new program that we just started launching. We're the first in the county to do it. So we have a at-home pickup for household hazardous waste. So the big thing with this is if you have neighbors that are maybe a little bit elderly or don't have the mobility that they used to, or maybe they don't drive anymore, right? But there's stuff at their house that they need to get rid of, and we don't want them throwing it in the way, right? So now they have an option where they can reach out to Athens. Athens will schedule a pickup, and then our friends with Clean Harbors, who also run the HHW facility, will be able to pick that up at no cost. So you'll schedule a pickup, and we'll take those materials directly from your home, which is kind of fantastic. We still have the HHW facility that's going to be open Fridays and Saturdays from 9 to 1. But for, folks that just don't have the mobility anymore, it's a great option, and it's better to offer this service than it is to, if you don't have a resource, you're going to throw it away, because we usually take the easiest outcome for us. So that's one thing that's coming up. Free landfill days are always very popular. We had some rain issues recently, as we're all aware of. It's great to see the rain, but we have some rescheduled days coming up for the free landfill days. So April 16th, we have the Simi Valley landfill. They're going to be taking care of that. But then moving forward, May 20th and August 19th, we'll have the free landfill day over in Calabasas. And kind of up and coming in the next few weeks, we have Arbor Earth Day, which is always a great event. Last year was the first time we were able to do it in quite a number of years. Everybody was itching to get out, and it was a great event. So we're going to have some displays for electric vehicles, native plants. It's a great time to replant. Drought restrictions, well, won't go to drought too much here, but it's getting better and better, which is great. If the only plug I would put in for that is turn your irrigation system off and let Mother Nature pay your bills for probably the next month or so, especially after the little rain that we got today. But yeah, if you're available, we'd love to have you for Arbor Earth Day. A lot of cool events, very family friendly and focused. We'll kind of go from there. And I think that is my contact information. Call me. I'm there. I'm there to call all the time. So I love the feedback and the opportunity to speak with our residents. And yeah, I really love my job. So it's really fun.
Oh, awesome. That is so great, Philip. And you ended it. I love to hear that. I love my job too. And we are very fortunate to be in that role. I will back him up. Arbor Earth Day is just so fun. No matter what age of a child you are, it's a great thing to go to. And I'm really glad you talked about those Mobius symbols. Just because there's those little chasing triangles doesn't necessarily mean it can go in the recycling bin or that it gets recycled. And I think Matt Trouts from Athens is going to talk to us a little bit more about that, and then expand upon what some of the things that Philip told us about the services they provide and some of the challenges and opportunities there are. And so Matt is a territory manager for Athens Services. He's been with Athens for 10 years, and they're a family company. I'm sure you're going to hear about that. And he's worked in the recycling and waste industry for 30 years. So he has a couple of years on me. And he's also a 30-year resident of Thousand Oaks. So he's local. And in his spare time, Matt enjoys diving for lobsters off our beautiful California coast. So with that, I will pass it on to you, Matt.
Thank you, Joanie. I am really happy to be here tonight. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Love to talk to our community any chance I can get. And I'm Matt Trouts. I am with Athens Services. I've been in this industry, like Joanie said, for about 30 years. Lifelong mountain biker, surfer, and free diver. I spent a ton of time up in the hills around here and out in the Channel Islands with my friends and family doing some diving and surfing and things like that. Like Joanie mentioned, Athens, we are a family-owned company. We've been in business since 1957. We were started with Jack Arkelian. The Arkelian family still owns Athens today. And we are now one of the largest environmental service companies in all of Southern California, providing services in over 50 cities, and Thousand Oaks being one of them. Fun fact about Athens Services, most people don't know this, we are a landfill avoidant company. And people ask me, what the heck does that mean, Matt? You guys are a trash company. And I say, curb your tongue, we are not a trash company. Annually, we process 1.7 million tons of curbside waste and recyclables through our material recovery facilities. And to put that into perspective for everyone, that's about 300,000 trash truck loads per year driving around landfills going for sorting. And that, that's a big number, and we're really proud of that. That is a lot of work. And it's not just our work, it's everyone's work. All these communities that we provide services for, we just pick it up. You guys are the ones putting in the right containers, and I'm happy to talk about that tonight. A lot of times people ask, how is Thousand Oaks doing? You guys have been out here for a year and a half now, and how's the town doing? Are we good recyclers? And I am happy to report Thousand Oaks is doing an amazing job at recycling. And you guys are probably one of the best partners we could have ever hoped to have hooked up with when it comes to recycling and providing these services. To give you an idea, the first year out here in Thousand Oaks, this is what we have done. And I say we, not Athens, but we, the community of Thousand Oaks with Athens Services. Just in green waste alone, in our first year in Thousand Oaks, we diverted 25,044 tons of green waste from our local landfills. And people are like, oh, what's the big deal? You dump it in there and the grass will turn into dirt and off you go. That's not exactly how it goes. There is off-gassing when this material breaks down. And Thousand Oaks, we're flanked by two landfills. We've got Calabasas and we've got Simi Valley, and they're great resources for our community. I mean, they're really valuable. They're really important for us. But realistically, our goal is to put as little in there as humanly possible as a company, because that's not what we do. We are, again, a landfill avoidant company. Green waste, 25,000 tons. The food waste, since SB 1383 was introduced, we now have a food waste program as well. And inside the city of Thousand Oaks, and this is a brand new program. So I'm really excited to see this number in a couple of years. But just in our first year, we did 3,452 tons of food waste diversion. And again, guys, this is the same material, organic base, that goes into that landfill and causes the issues with the gassing and things like that. So we're really excited about that number. And this was really driven by the city of Thousand Oaks and, wanting to be compliant with these new laws that are coming down. And like Philip had mentioned, I think I'm actually sure Thousand Oaks was the first city in Ventura County to be totally compliant with the organic SB 1383. So we're really proud of that. And, that took a whole town to pull that off. That wasn't just Athens coming in and waving our magic wand. There was an enormous amount of effort from our community to make it happen. So again, we can't do anything without the help of our towns, and Thousand Oaks really did a phenomenal job. That material, people ask, what happens to it if it's not going to a landfill? Great question. We turn it into organic compost. And our goal is to bring as much of that material back to these cities that we're lucky enough to provide services inside of. So in the city of Thousand Oaks, since we've been here, we've already brought back 60 tons of organic compost. We work with Rexon Park, Las Flores Community Garden. Last year, we were at Arbor Day, Earth Day, and we brought out a lowboy. That's an industry term for a low profile container. It wasn't filled with trash. It was filled with organic compost that originated from our community. So it's like this full circle. You do your part by putting it in the right cans. And we know it's kind of a pain in the butt to learn anything new. I'm 50 years old. I'm not a big fan of learning new stuff, but it's really easy. When you go out to that can and you're like, it's food. Well, it's now going in your green garbage can with your green waste. Why? It's all organic in nature. It will all break down the same, and we can make that same amazing compost and continue to bring it back down. So Thousand Oaks has rocked the organics as far as I'm concerned. They've done a phenomenal job. I live here, so I'm saying, we did a great job. The next portion that I want to brag about our city on would be our mixed recycle, the blue barrel. And that's the one that everyone does pretty good with for the most part. Recycling's been around. There's been a lot of messaging associated with that for years and years and years. So we know in that blue can, it's the classics. It's your bottles, it's your cans, it's all your fibers and things like that can go in there. And in the city of Thousand Oaks, we diverted 19,362 tons from our local landfills last year. So this is our first year together, and we're already doing big numbers. So that's just stuff that gets turned into new products, whether it's new paper, new cardboard, new bottles, new cans, new packaging. So that's just a monster number as far as we're concerned. And, our hats is off to the city of Thousand Oaks. You guys couldn't have done a better job. And we're new, so we're just still kind of getting to know everyone and, learning our processes up here and getting better every day at them. But I mean, for our first year, that's incredible. And there's more. The construction waste that we've taken out of the city. So Thousand Oaks is a kind of a booming town right now. We've got some really big restaurants coming in. And when they build out these restaurants, we've got an Amy's Organic coming in on Moore Park Road, directly across the street from Chick-fil-A. I'm sorry, I lost my thought there. And, 98 or 89.5% of all of the material that is kind of byproduct from building out that structure gets diverted from landfills at our facility in Sun Valley. And that's a really high number for construction diversion. 89.5 is huge. And the number was 19,362 tons of construction material diverted just in our first year. So these are absolutely monster numbers. It's over 60,000 tons of material diverted from local landfills by our residents just in our first year working together. And I have to say that's huge. That is an absolute success story. We're really proud to have been chosen to come up here. And then really important, we're really proud of the work that we've done since we've been here. And we can't thank the city of Thousand Oaks. You guys have welcomed us with open arms, even during the hiccups, there's a big rollout and there's always hiccups. But I think everyone did a great job. It was like a huge team effort with the city of Thousand Oaks, Athens Services, and all of our residents. And I just think we rocked it. I think we did so good. So that's what's happening right now in Thousand Oaks. I always like to talk a little bit about kind of like the real problem, though, when it comes to recycling. And that's the packaging. We joke around a lot about recycling. Whatever building you're sitting in right now, if you knocked it down and put it in one of our dumpsters, we're going to recycle 89.5% of it. If you give me a can, I'm going to recycle the can. You give me a piece of paper, I recycle the paper. The issue is when we receive the materials, and this is what Joanie spoke to, and this is what Philip spoke to, it's out of control what they do to us. They put it on you and me and everyone on this call tonight to figure out what we're supposed to do and become masterminds at recycling on all material types. And it's very difficult. So I always ask people, please, if you do a review, if you get something on Amazon and you just love it, best running shoes, best new tire for your bike, whatever it is, but it comes in this crazy packaging, like layers and layers and layers of packaging. The simple thing might be to do is go on the internet and say, love your product, absolutely floored that you sent me this much packaging. You have to do a better job. This is unacceptable. And message backwards. You got to be thoughtful to be able to, I think, work on this problem. And it's not, there's no one easy fix. That's one thing you can do. When you're buying your stuff at the store, you can simply flip it over. I live off of these things, these little yogurts. I don't know if you can see it or not. And this is one of the good ones. This is a number 5 material. And I'm specific when I buy my stuff. I do look at what it is. I'm looking for number 1. I'm looking for number 2. And I'm looking for number 5. Those are the ones that we can definitely recycle. Those are the ones that are going to move the needle. Your 3, 4, 6, and 7s, they're really challenging to work with. There's not a lot of market for those materials. And the truth is, they're not as necessary as they have been provided, in my opinion. They can use other things for this. And I think what Phil mentioned, with our local restaurants, if we can all be kind of watchful and thoughtful about what they're doing, and it's not about like being the narc and busting anyone, oh, you're using styrofoam, but maybe a super simple conversation of, man, you guys got the best sushi in town. I love this place. This is like best food I've ever had. You got to check out these new 100% fiber-based clamshell to-go containers, though, because that's the kind of person I am, and I just wanted to mention that to you in a complimentary form. Just let people know that, get the conversation going a little bit. Some of the leaders in Thousand Oaks would in recycling and making the most noise and doing a lot of effort. It has to be like the team at Amgen and CalLU and CVUSD. As a company, we're in 50 cities. We work with a lot of different towns. We work with a lot of, schools and communities and colleges and things like that. And to get what we get from Amgen and CalLU and the school district up here, it's almost second to none. I mean, it's a phenomenal effort what they do to get the messaging out. I mean, as a company, it's like music to our ears when you've got Joanie coming up with the next great idea over at Amgen, or the folks at CalLU going, hey, we've got a great idea about some composting. Can you come out? And then CVUSD, we're out there every single day, just about speaking with the students. And that's with the help of the school district. So the messaging in Thousand Oaks is on point. The leaders, the Amgens, the CalLUs, the school districts are phenomenal partners for Athens. And I think we should be really proud of what we've done up here so far. A lot to be done, of course, a lot of work to be done, but I think it's a great community to be talking about this in. It might not ring so true in every single town in Southern California, but Thousand Oaks, Newberry, Westlake, people are interested, people are doing a good job. And at the end of the day, I think we can really move it up here, and so far so good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was great, Matt. Very inspiring. I'm very inspired by all of that. And it's great to hear that Thousand Oaks is doing as well as we are. I agree. It definitely takes a village or a city, as the case may be. And I will say, I'm glad that you highlighted the importance of the food waste aspect that SB 1383 brought into our green bins. I was so excited about that. And my favorite thing to do on Tuesday nights, because my waste day is Wednesday, is bring the container that I baked the chicken in with all of that fat left over and put it in the green bin, because we all know it doesn't go down the drain. And it can go in my green bin, and there's always some landscape waste in there, so it doesn't get all nasty, and then it's gonna get composted. And to me, that's just, I feel like that's the best thing. So I don't know, maybe I'm a little weird.
To kind of expand on that, Joni, like when we first came out, we're just like, no, just green waste, just food waste, no bags. And that wasn't really the best way to start the program, in our opinion. So we were like, let's take away all these little pushbacks we're getting. Like, so we said, put it in a clear bag. You can put in Thousand Oaks.
Really?
Feel free to put your compostable material inside clear plastic bags, just so we can see what's in there. And we're going to remove those for you. We just want people to get used to walking over to that container, knowing what goes in there and putting it in there. And if the problem was, well, how do I get it out there from my kitchen? No problem. You can also put it in a brown paper bag.
That's what I do.
Yeah, it's super popular because it's a fibrous bag, and you can put all your wet, sloppy food in there. And that includes bones, meat, cheese, like everything, bread. A couple things we can't put in there are like the really hard shells, like clam shells, oyster shells, but your soft shells are good. Like your lobsters, your crab, they can all go in there. But yeah, it's great news that everyone's using it.
Yeah. I mean, I always just put everything in the brown bag, knowing that the brown bag will just get composted with everything.
Yeah.
No dog poop either, though, right?
No dog poop. We prefer not to, because a lot of people feed their dogs people food, and then you've got a different product than just like horse manure from hay. They're not just eating hay. So please keep that out. But your horse manure here in the city of Thousand Oaks is 100% okay to go into your green waste container.
Interesting.
We do accept that. So if
Okay.
you've got horses, if you're those folks over there, feel free. Most of them know we've been in constant contact with the horse community up here.
Okay, cool. Well, that said, I mean, that's a great, I'm not the person who's going to answer or ask all the questions or spark all the discussion. There are some Q&As. I see a couple, Steve, that are, kind of consistent. And so, I'm dying to hear the answers to some of these, or answer some if you want me to, but go ahead and give us our first one.
Okay, thank you very much. By the way, I'm Steve Johnson. I'm also on the board of the Conejo Open Space Foundation. I'm just being reclusive tonight. Okay, so the first question is from Linda. She'd like to know what we're trying to recycle but is actually being thrown away because it isn't acceptable, such as plastic bags without triangles, and I presume also 3, 4, 6, and 7. So what happens when they're put into the recycle bin and they're not acceptable?
Okay, that's a great question. So in Thousand Oaks, when we pick up your blue bin recycling material, it goes to a very state-of-the-art facility, and it's actually optically sorted. So when all these different streams come down this conveyor belt, there are lasers, there are magnets, there are reverse magnets, there are fans, if you've ever seen How It's Made, it's one of my favorite TV shows, and they always have like food processing, and they've got the one with the apples, and there's like a million apples coming down this stream going really fast, but that laser knows which one the bad ones are and flicks them out somehow. Essentially, that's what's happening with all of your recycling material here in Thousand Oaks. So, they're trained to read for 1, 2, and 5. There's certain times when some of the other plastic numbers will get recycled, but oftentimes not, because there's just no back end for it, and they're very difficult to work with. So the 1, 2, and 5, for sure, your paper, cardboard, bottles, cans, you can take it to the bank, guys. We're getting all that done on a really high level for you. But the other ones, the 3, 4, 6, and 7s, only when we can.
But Linda referred to plastic bags. Like plastic bags can't go in the recycling. They won't get recycled, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
They will not get recycled.
Okay.
So that means even the clear plastic ones that we might package are compostables, and they get picked out as well, right?
We have to pull those out, but
okay,
it's worth it to get everyone in that frame of thought of, oh yeah, that's our compost bin with no excuse.
All right. So for the blue bins, how clean do recyclables have to be?
Pretty clean. If it's a bottle, we ask that you empty the bottle. It doesn't have to be rinsed clean, but empty is what the expectation is. So if it's I think the big offender a lot of times in the recycling can is the pizza box, because it's this big pizza box and it's very recyclable, guys. If it's a clean box with no grease and no sauce and no cheese on it, that can be recycled. Now, if you order a pizza from a really good pizza place and it comes out and your box is just totally bombarded with grease and all the good stuff, that can actually go into your compost container, because you've got now food waste with your fiber-based cardboard. So that can be composted. So you got a cheap pizza and there's no stains on it, you probably recycle it if there's nothing on it. But if you get a really good pizza and it's loaded with everything and you've got grease and cheese and all that, that's likely going to wind up going in your compost container, and we'll compost that out for you.
Okay. We have had a lot of questions that have already been covered. Okay, somebody would like to know what happens with cardboard egg cartons. It sounds like they might be compostable.
They are. So if it's a cardboard egg carton specifically, but it's got to be cardboard, it cannot be the styrofoam version. There's two ways you can do it. It can be recycled or it can be composted. If it's totally dry and that carton is dry, we can recycle that for you. It's no problem at all. If you crack an egg in there, or if it gets wet or it's kind of sloppy with food somehow, you're cooking next to it, that would then go in the compost container.
And you've already mentioned the new fiber frozen food containers, actually for the carryout, but the frozen food containers as well. It sounds like if they're fiber, they would be compostable as well.
Well, yes, but fiber-based only if it's been compromised with food. If it's like virgin material, meaning really clean, even clamshells, if they're clean and there's nothing in those can be recycled. It's only when they get contaminated with food is when we're going to put them into the compost bin.
Pat would like to know what to do with shredded paper. So micro-cut paper shredding paper.
So you can put that in your recycle bin. We can take that for sure.
Okay. And then the Geitler family would like to know what to do with plastic bags. And that's, I would ask both about the ones that are marked as recyclable, the ones that are marked as number 6, and the ones that aren't marked at all.
Yeah, that's probably again, stick to that 1-2-5 rule, and the bags are generally not going to be recycled.
On that same note too, reach out to the grocery stores or like the Targets of the world and Walmarts of the world. A lot of those companies have a take back policy for their plastic bags. So that's something to keep in mind. You have to stockpile them a little bit, but put them in the back of your car. Next time you head over to one of those stores, call them ahead of time to see if they still accept them. But for the most times, they have to legally accept those.
All right. And we had a question from Paul who asked about how to report issues to how to resolve roadside trash. And I've given him links to the county, to Caltrans, and to the city of Thousand Oaks work request sites. Any other comments about those? Roadside trash?
That kind of goes back to the Main Star aspect. So you can report those. The city it's a little bit different on the jurisdiction and who's responsible for picking up what or who has accessibility to it. If you wanted to report it on Main Star, that's totally okay. And we can facilitate that to the proper channel. On the highways, kind of the rule of thumb is if it's on the highway, Caltrans will pick that up. If it's on or off ramps, we do have crews that go out there and pick up stuff on the on ramps and off ramps.
Okay. Lisa would like to know what happens to wax coated cardboard containers, like for milk or orange juice.
Okay, so specifically, wax coated is generally not going to be a recyclable product. Those unfortunately are any wax coating is not going to be recycled.
Okay. How about aluminum foil, clean or dirty? What to do with that?
If it's clean aluminum foil, you can put that in the recycling. If it's dirty, we'd ask you to put that in your landfill bin.
Okay. And the question about shredded paper, Roger asks to clarify, should that be put into a separate bag in the recycling bin, or does it matter if it's just dumped in loose?
It doesn't matter if it's bagged or loose. At this facility that we bring all the recycling materials to, the first thing that happens, and feel free to put all of your recycling into a bag, that's fine, as long as it's clear. Because the first part of our machine is called, it's really fancy, the bag ripper. And it opens up the bags to let all the material in. So yeah, you can bag that for sure. And that goes for all your recycling material.
Yeah, I've put loose stuff in my own recycle bin, and occasionally it winds up on the street. But hopefully that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, hopefully not.
So
Okay.
Matt, good rule of thumb, as long as you guys can see what's inside of that bag, it's a pretty good safe bet. So
Yeah, for sure.
I think those translucent bags will probably be, especially for shredded paper. Thousand Oaks gets windy. We get that.
Yeah.
So yeah, those translucent bags, the bag's not going to get recycled necessarily, but it might reduce some of the waste. That's wind happens and stuff like that does happen.
But wouldn't you rather put it wouldn't it be better to put it in just like we were talking with the compost, put it in a brown paper bag, because then it could get recycled?
Yeah, I think that goes well too. I think from kind of what I've run into with shredded paper, for instance, it's usually like businesses, and it's a lot of shredded paper.
Yeah.
So if they're going to be putting it, and I go to Trader Joe's all the time, so those are the Trader Joe's like brown bags that I'm always dealing with. That would be great, but I mean, there's also that commercial setting where it can be a little bit difficult in, with anything recycling or how we handle our waste. It needs to be kind of as easy as possible to a point.
Yeah. And I apologize. For some reason, I've lost my video. So, but this is Joanie speaking here. So Steve, go ahead. Do you have any other questions for us?
Yeah, there's a couple more. You gave us some impressive numbers on the amount of trash that gets recycled, but what percentage of our overall trash is recycled?
That's a good question. I didn't run the trash number, so I'd have to probably respond to that offline.
Okay. And I will answer another question here by saying that we do put copies of the recordings up on our Conejo Open Space Foundation website, COSF.org. And the recordings for our speaker events stay up there for quite a long time. So Lou, when you're interested in reviewing this or forwarding this to a friend, we can put it, you can refer to your friends there. And we can put your answer up there too, Matt, if you have a chance to get back to us on that. I have a question, and it's because my wife and I do gardening a lot in our yard and like to cover our plants with compost. Is there any way to retrieve any of that compost that winds up out in wherever it winds up and get some of it back for our garden?
Absolutely. So your next opportunity will be on April the 15th at Arbor Day. We will be there with our compost available, and you can take as much as you like. If you bring a bucket or a bag, whatever you have, you can feel free to come on out, and we'll have a big area set up designated for giving out compost. Last year,
we'll be there with our front loader.
There you go. And guys, there was a question, and I just wanted to kind of circle back to make sure I was clear, because I think I may have misspoke. Your like orange juice cartons, your milk cartons, those are recyclable. The waxed cardboard, like if you had a large fruit box, like a commercial waxed, those are the ones that don't get recycled. So I wanted to make sure I was clear. I think I misspoke. The orange juice, those kind of containers, those are recyclable. It's the commercial cardboard waxed boxes that would not ultimately be recycled.
Do you care whether the glass bottles are separated from their lids? I'm thinking of a screw-on wine bottle or something like that.
No, it can be on there. That's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
And one last question. Paul asks if there's enough demand for post-processed recycled materials. And I think
that it's massive. I mean, California is always in front, like we should be really proud of that. We're always way out in front on the environmental causes and actions, and it's spreading. There used to be a time when you couldn't find a fiber-based clamshell to save your life, and now there's multiple companies out there generating phenomenal products. So it's changing pretty quick, and it's becoming I think more doable everywhere else too. Like California, like I said, we're always the first ones there, but now it seems like it's spreading.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on that. There was a recent bill just passed, the Plastics Pollution Reduction Act, I believe. And more and more bills like that. And again, Matt is absolutely dead on that. California is really a leader in this, and also what's called extended producer responsibility. And it's placing the onus on the people who put things on the market to include recycled content in their products. So you won't be able to buy a recycled or a plastic bottle in the future that doesn't have some degree of plastic content. And that's with the view to sparking those markets and making sure of that, what's called circularity, really happens, because it's one thing to recycle a bunch, but there needs to be those markets. And that speaks to the importance of buying recycled. Not only do you look if it's recyclable, but look if it's recycled. A big one for me is toilet paper and Kleenex. A lot of it says it's recycled. The container, the plastic or the paper carton that comes in as recycled material or recyclable, but all of that paper could be virgin material, but you can buy 100% recycled paper. So that's just one example of me getting on my soapbox about recycling. But that the markets part of it is a really important aspect.
I have one last question from Christine, and that is, what happens if my neighbors put cans and bottles into my trash bin or into their trash bin? Do they get sorted and recycled, or does the stuff in the trash bin just go into the landfill?
That's correct. If it goes into your trash container, it's just going to get landfilled. Okay. And it makes no sense to put bottles and cans in there. I mean, it's so easy. When we go do our training at the school and the outreach at the schools, these kids pick it up in 10 seconds. It's almost laughable how quickly they absorb this and get it right. Like we'll do like a little deal at the end of the class or the end of the seminar and be like, all right, so where does this go? 10 out of 10 get it right. So there's really no excuse except for maybe just not wanting to do it. And that's kind of lame. So.
Great.
Right.
Okay. Was that the last question, Steve?
Paul Adima suggests that we look to the Netherlands, and I suggest Japan as well, as places with very high population densities, little land, and they seem to be doing a reasonably good job with their trash.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Two role models. I actually lived and worked in Europe for a long time. And the one thing I will say is we aren't Dutch. There's a big cultural aspect to that. I would wholeheartedly agree. But, as someone who's trying to change the culture of my organization, there truly is a cultural aspect, and also just a, willing, Matt kind of put it, a willingness to comply, a willingness to do it. The city's given us the tools. They've given us our green bins and our blue bins, but, we've really got to all, participate. So there's me getting on my soapbox again. Sorry, guys.
I love it.
And I think that's it, right? Was that it, Steve?
There was a question about where mesh netting should be put, and that's seldom marked.
Mesh netting.
I think the mesh netting, we're looking like onion bags or like tangerine bags and stuff like that. If I remember correctly, I think that would be in your trash. And
yeah, those are great bags. They're like indestructible, but they are garbage.
I think too, like keep in mind, anywhere you're going shopping at, like have your reusable bags with you, and bring those in. That kind of there's no reason to get a plastic bag these days. Like we have plenty of options. You can take it in, even for there's those cool reusable like woven materials for like your fruits and vegetables you can now get. So it's a great option just to have in the back of your car and to use those when you go shopping. And we should all be our own brand ambassadors for stuff like this.
Yeah. And I purchased some Brussels sprouts in one of those mesh bags, and they are handy. But what really struck home to me is when I cut it open. It was right next to my sink. And there were all these little tiny shards. And at first I thought, oh, I'll just brush it into the sink. And it's like, wait a minute. Those are microplastics. That's exactly what we're talking about. If those make it into the ocean. So I have seen onions more and more in pure fiber mesh bags, but those plastic mesh bags, I think, really be careful when you're cutting them open, and then collect all those little plastics and make sure those go in the trash too.
Yeah, and guys, feel free. We have a sustainability center here in Thousand Oaks for everyone. We're at 2251 East Thousand Oaks Boulevard, directly across the street from the lakes and City Hall. You can't miss us. So come on in if you need bags for grocery shopping. We've got whatever you need in here. We're happy to give them to you, as many as you need. And they're pretty cool. They're 100% recycled, and you take what you need. But again, 2251 East Thousand Oaks Boulevard. If you don't have bags, come on in. We're happy to talk about recycling, trash, organics, and you can grab some bags too.
Awesome. That's great.
All
Okay.
right. Did we hit our question quota, Steve?
We certainly did.
Awesome.
Well, I really want to thank all the panelists. I really want to thank all the attendees. I don't think I've ever seen this active of a Q&A. So I think this is a really worthy topic. I took away so much from tonight, and I'm sorry I was very quiet because I was furiously taking notes. So, I hope that our attendees agree. I really learned a lot. I want to remind everyone that this is a recording that we will put up on our website. So if there's something you can't quite remember, you knew we talked about which Mobius numbers are we talking about, right? Any of that information will be up in about a week on our COSF website. Again, Steve mentioned this, COSF.org. It's a good place to go back, rewatch. You can fast forward to the spot what you need to see again. Share with your friends and neighbors. They probably don't know some of this information. I think it's really exciting, and I'm going to reiterate Joanie here and say I am super inspired. I really appreciated hearing the positivity about what is already happening. I hear so much about these myths that are out there that, this recycling isn't happening and why do we bother? And I think some of that mentality is what sneaks into our culture and our mindset with all of this. And so I think the more that we can talk about the positive things we're doing and that we are recycling and that it is an easy thing, and hey, our young kids are getting it in 2 seconds, surely we can too. I know for me, it's just a mindset. And I think that, we need to share the positive aspects more. And so I really appreciate all of you doing that.
Thank you. It was wonderful. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the questions, and I really appreciate Matt and Philip's participation. And I really appreciate you guys at COSF. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate you, Joanie. Again, let's thank the wonderful panelists. Really excited, Joanie, that you were able to moderate us through and sharing your insight about Amgen and the great work being done there. Super big heartfelt thank you to you. We really appreciate it, Joanie. Also special thanks, Matt Trouts, Athens Services Territory Manager and City of Thousand Oaks Sustainability Department Assistant Analyst, Philip Hirrel. Thank you so much, both of you, for the wonderful information. And I'm so appreciative to all of our attendees. You were very interactive. This was an exciting opportunity for me to learn more. So I hope you're all feeling the same way. Our event is coming to a close here. I do want to share with you, if you have any questions about this event, miss some information or something, you can also feel free to reach out to some of our COSF emails as well, and we'll direct you in the right way. Please take this as an opportunity to do a little bit more. One of the things I often tell people about trash is we also are all litter bugs, whether we think we're good or not. Be conscious of accidental trash. I tell folks out on the trails, right? We take some Kleenex, we shove it in a pocket, and we take a couple of steps, and that Kleenex pops right back out. So think of zipper pockets, things like that. That's one of my key takeaways too for all of you is let's be intentional about where we put our stuff out on the trails. And I do want to encourage all of you to stay tuned for our next speaker series to come. We'll give you more information in the next few weeks. To all of our attendees tonight, thank you for being volunteers. Thank you for supporting COSF financially and through us, your Conejo Valley. We live in one of the most beautiful places in the country, and it's because everybody pitches in to keep it clean and keep it a wonderful outdoor space. Spring has sprung. If you haven't been out on the trails, I hope all of my panelists have been, but it's a beautiful time to be out there. So get out, look at the wildflowers, look at our beautiful green hills. It's fantastic. Enjoy it. And last thing I'll say to you is please continue to partner with COSF. We really love your participation. We love your questions. We love your engagement. And thank you for all of you and everything that you do. Panelists, you were wonderful. I'll see you all out on the trails. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.